Hey guys, how's it going? It's the Crypto Analyst here, and I hope all of you guys are having a good morning, evening, wherever you guys are from. Welcome back to the Crypto Analyst live stream, where we go over everything cryptocurrency related. We do some technical analysis, we do some historical analysis, and of course we do some fundamental analysis as we take your guys' requests, the viewers, and then talk about that on the live stream. So tonight we're going to have a very good time. Bitcoin is currently pushing its way past $8,200, trying to see if we can make that next measured move towards the upside before coming back down and seeing any more of a retrace. So far, we have bounced pretty well off support, and we are heading back towards the upside for the time being, trying to break the previous high of around 8,300, about 8,350. So that is the range that we're looking at for our eyes set right now, and for the time being. So welcome everyone who is tuning in. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I do get this live stream out to everyone who is watching. And in order to do that, I got to make sure that the sound and everything is right, and we're ready to get this show on the road. So welcome to everyone who's tuning in. Do need to make sure that this is correct. I think we're good. So I am pretty much completely healed. My voice is good now, so I'm able to actually talk again. If you guys remember from the last live stream, it wasn't too great. I was barely able to speak, but yeah, no, we're good to go from here. Let me make sure I tweet this and put this in the Discord. And now we're good to go. So what is up, everybody? Who's all in here? Matt, great to have you in here. First, yes, indeed you are. So there's a couple things that I want to be talking about today. And as I'm doing this, sorry, I have a lot of charts pulled up. I have Bitcoin right here. I have S&P 500 and crude oil over here. I have live chat over here. We got everything up tonight, so we're going to be talking about a bunch of cool stuff, especially within cryptocurrency. So, because that's obviously what's important right now. But let's go ahead and do this. Again, I do like to give people time to get in here before I talk about anything too significant. But I do think that Bitcoin is kind of something crucial to talk about. Nothing too wild, so to say. I think it's a pretty simplistic chart for the most part, and with a pretty simplistic explanation. So I stopped being bearish past once Bitcoin broke over this 6,500 level. I was pretty much about done being bearish, and I want to wait a little bit before I get too in depth and explain this. Singard, what's up? Floyd, what's up? Great to have you guys in here. But pretty much the sum and the gist of it was after 6,500 broke, that was pretty much the last straw, or what was it, 6,800, something like that. After pretty much these last resistance levels broke over, if we can circle it, over in here, that, once that broke, I was pretty much hooked on being bullish, because if this level were to break, then with being really just the hardest resistance in the history of Bitcoin, if that level was to break with relative ease and pretty much just a one stroke towards the upside was able to break it, one fell swoop, then I definitely was thinking that some of these levels were going to be able to break, and sure enough that they have. So pretty much since then I've been bullish. I haven't really been longing. I've kind of just been enjoying the ride. I'm trading some traditionals, but with this working, I haven't really been bearish since then. And that's pretty much the reason. But with this working, something that I was showing the Patreons earlier is pretty much just this rising channel that we have right now towards the upside. John, great to have you in here. And with this rising channel comes pretty much just about as simplistic as it gets path. Basically, it comes up, tests resistance, comes back to support, goes back up to resistance, comes back to support, and that's pretty much what it's doing. And so as long as it's doing this, there's no reason to believe that it'll stop. Not to say that it'll do it forever, but as long as it's in this rising channel, the fundamentals are pretty simple. If it just touched resistance, it's going to come hit support. If it just hit support, it's going to go touch resistance. And basically, this is one of those situations where it's bullish until proven bearish, and that's exactly how we're playing this out, or exactly how I'm playing this out. So there's really no reason for me to be bearish yet, because of the fact that we just bounced off of support, and if support's not broken, then I have no reason to believe that we won't go up back to resistance. Again, indicators and oscillators haven't been really proving anything. Despite things looking bearish and showing bearish divergence, the price has continued to move upwards. So with that being said, if the price is continuing to move upwards while we're showing bearish divergence, and while the RSI is dropping, and while the MACD is dropping, the price is starting to move upwards, what that can actually be shown as is a potential what's it called? Potential secret bullish and bear, or potential secret bullish divergence, because of the fact that everything's dropping off, but despite that, there's still growing strength in the market. Now, again, at the moment, we are seeing probably about what, $40, $50 pullback in the price action of Bitcoin, but that's, again, nothing too problematic, as we're still holding support. Hi there, it's official. Is it official Bitcoin will crash? Why? I just bought some, typical of me. So I don't think it's official that it will crash. And in fact, John, what I was just saying is that this is one of those things, the trend is your friend. And if we go and we look at the macro of this, now eventually it's going to pull back very, very hard. Is that yet? I don't know. I mean, support's still holding. You go over here and you see, again, just bounces off of support over and over and over again. So until support breaks, there's no reason for me to be bearish on it. It's literally just following the exact same trend, resistance, resistance, support, resistance, and now it's back at support. So I have no reason to believe that it won't go back up towards resistance since it just bounced off support like 3 or 4 times. And it's a pretty simplistic model, but it's one that's effective. Traditionals are yanking right now. I have so many charts up. Traditionals are yanking right now. Oh my goodness. That is brutal. And if you can kind of see this, if we go ahead and want to look at this on the 1 day, I might have to put away all the other charts. I have 5 charts up right now, and only one of them is Bitcoin. I might have to put the rest away, just for focusing sake. What's our next big resistance? Will it even hold since we broke 6K so easily? Howard, that's another thing that I was kind of explaining. I should have waited to explain it. But basically, since the 6K area broke so easily, and with that being the hardest resistance in the history of Bitcoin, I'm pulling up all this other crap right now. Bleh. With the 6K area breaking so easily, and that being the hardest resistance in the history of Bitcoin, that pretty much says, with this breaking so easily and that being our hardest form of resistance, what chance do these guys have at really stopping Bitcoin? And that's like the big question right now. Now, eventually, obviously, Bitcoin will stop and it will pull back as every market, as everything does. However, if it was going to break this so easily, 7,400, 7,300 wasn't much stronger. This area, not much stronger. Now, as we get up towards this 10K, 11K area, resistance starts getting substantially stronger. And so my eyes are set next on one area, 9K, and the next area being 10K. Now, 10K is this top over here. This is a previous high, which is the $10,000 range. The reason that my $9,000 target is below the $10,000 target is because of the sheer fact that we have this giant rising channel over here, and that it's a very simplistic model, that it works until it doesn't. So we hit resistance, then the support, then the resistance, then the support, then the resistance, then the support. So I have no reason to believe that it won't go back towards resistance. And resistance, if you look towards the right, is at $9,000, around that area. So again, very simplistic, and it's one of those things that it works until it doesn't. So as long as it's still in here, I'm still bullish because we just bounced off support several times. I have no reason to believe that we're not yet. There's no really significant area. Now, eventually, yes, this will break down. Eventually, yes, this will come back down. And when this does come down, it's going to be pretty nasty because the more I zoom out here, the more you see just how steep this channel is in perspective. So yes, when we're zoomed in, it doesn't look too bad, but if we are zoomed out, you can see just kind of how parabolic this is. And with this being so parabolic, it doesn't set a lot of support over here. So when this does fall, it's going to fall pretty hard. It's going to fall pretty fast. It'll probably fall back to probably at least this $6,000 area, somewhere in the 6,000s. So the drop's going to be pretty high. Now, the real question is, everyone knows that this is going to be very, very parabolic back down. The real question is, how high can it go before it starts moving down again? Because if it wants to move down from this area, everyone's going to probably be looking towards at least 6,400 or something like that. Probably somewhere $7,000 or below. So the question isn't, when is it going to come down, or the question isn't where is it going to come down to, the question is when, and if it can reach some of these higher price targets before it actually comes back down. And so that's what everyone's kind of curious about, because everyone is very, very, obviously, 99% of people are in profit right now if they bought, I can't say that. A lot of people are not in profit because they bought Bitcoin above 8K. But anyone who bought Bitcoin at any point in 2019 is in profit. And a lot of people probably are looking to take profits eventually, especially if they know that there's going to be a couple $1,000 yank so that they can just rebuy at that lower zone. 6K was support for 12 months. Very strong support, very weak resistance. As a market, the market sees BTC should be above 6K. Yeah, so that's the thing, is that it's extremely hard, strong support, and it turned out to be very, very weak resistance. That was a joke, buddy. Oh wait, what was it? Is it official? Bitcoin will crash today. I thought. Okay, I'm happy you told me that, John. Howard Lee, I think I already told you our next big resistance was like 9 and 10K. Can you swing trade Bitcoin in this area? So that depends. So that kind of depends at how you look at swing trading. If you already own Bitcoin, then okay, so typically you don't want to swing traders don't look at things up here. The whole point of a swing is the name of the swing gets its name because you buy something low and you sell it high. So that's where you get the whole name behind the swing, because the whole idea is basically off like the whole swing set scenario where, you know, it swings up and you buy it low and it goes high. Usually you don't get it high and then short it low, because that's more of like shorting. I guess that's what you'd call it, rather than swinging. So I guess if you're saying that, you know, can I buy Bitcoin here and short it down, or like take it out and put it down here, can we call that a swing? You kind of can. Or I don't know if you're saying, can I buy it here and then maybe hopefully go up to 10K or 9K and then sell it and then buy the dip? You might be able to do that. So I don't really know if I would want to swing here, again, just because it's overextended. Ideally, you would want to be, or I would want to be swinging this down here, which is what I did, right? You buy it low. You don't, as a swing trader, you don't really look for trades up in here. Now it's possible, because what you're able to do is say, all right, this is my enter, this is my stop loss. If it works out, I set up a win-loss ratio, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. So ideally, I don't know if I would be ideally trying to swing anything up here. Usually swing traders try to buy things that are very low and try to make some money off of them because of the fact that they're undervalued. What is making the crypto markets move up? So, JT, basically what's making the crypto markets move up here is pretty much entirely based off of fundamental news and fundamental analysis and news. And the thing that is making them go up is things like Starbucks. We were just talking about this the other day. Starbucks. Well, let me pull up the article actually, because I don't know it all by name. What happened? So Microsoft launched a decentralized identity tool on Bitcoin's blockchain. And they're going to start dealing with Bitcoin, I believe. Starbucks, Nordstrom, and Whole Foods had just started accepting Bitcoin. eBay was now getting into the world of Bitcoin. Facebook was making progressions in the world of Bitcoin. Binance just announced that they were going to be offering margin trading. And the ICE approved Bitcoin futures and the backed currency exchange, cryptocurrency exchange, more so on Bitcoin, to really expand the Bitcoin world. And the reason that that's significant is because the fact that it's pretty much run by the people who do the New York Stock Exchange and the people from NASDAQ. So those people coming together to start Bitcoin's, stuff on Wall Street is very, very significant. So like all those things, like household names getting in, people using the technology, people actually accepting Bitcoin, futures getting approved, the ICEs on the side of Bitcoin, just one thing after another was just fundamentally amazing about Bitcoin. And so with all this fundamental analysis coming out, you have more people that are just okay with, you're seeing retail stores, investors, big names, people, institutions that are just starting to get okay with cryptocurrency, and they're finally starting to jump on board. And with that, you have people going along with it. So basically just news and stuff driving this market right now. Really for the most part, it's not TA. The very large majority of this is getting driven by news. What indicators do you use for showing weakness? Because RSI and stochastics don't really work anymore, nor does the MACD. Howard, you're exactly right. You're not wrong at all. So right now, I'm not really using indicators. It's very much like you said. No matter what kind of divergence that we're getting on any of them, it's not giving us any kind of useful information. And the reason for that being is because, yes, we can use some technical analysis from the candle charts themselves, but for the most part, beside our moving averages and just the flat out candle chart formations that we have, we're not getting any kind of a good reading. And the reason for that being is because the market is not getting driven by technicals. The market is getting driven by fundamentals and news. And so that's a little bit different. And so this is where I don't like to trade, because I am a technical trader. I trade off of charts and technical analysis and indicators and oscillators and candle formations and moving averages and all these different things, and support and resistance. And for the most part, with this getting driven by news and fundamentals rather than by technicals, I kind of like to avoid this area because of the fact that my forte and my specialty and my strong suit is in technicals, and less so in fundamentals. And so for that reason, I haven't been trading this zone. I've just been holding my crypto, enjoying my run up. It's been absolutely phenomenal. I mean, Bitcoin's just flying in price. But for that reason, I'm not really trading in this zone because of the fact that I can't get any kind of great divergence over here. Whatever kind of divergence I get, it doesn't mean anything. Why? Because it's not getting driven by technicals right now. And that's just one thing that you have to accept, is that sometimes the market will get driven on news and fundamentals, and sometimes the market will get driven on technicals. And when it's going your way, that's great. But when it's not, you have to recognize that, and you can't just be for a while I was very stubborn-headed about it. I was like, no, technicals always drive the market. And I kind of had to accept that within cryptocurrency, that's not always the case. Not to say that technicals will ever be completely irrelevant, but more so that they're just less relevant than they were. So yeah, it's pretty much so I'm not really using any indicators right now. Even in like my Bitcoin updates on Patreon, like I haven't been using anything that I write up for where I believe Bitcoin's going isn't based upon indicators anymore. I just stopped even mentioning them because they're not useful right now, which sucks. When we break down and retest the 20 weekly, that is your time to buy. The 20 weekly. Let's delete this guy. Yeah, so for the first time in history, the NVT was contradicted. Let's check this guy out. What is our 20 weekly? Let's change him to like bright pink. That way we can't miss it. To the 20 weekly. So that's around $5,200. Maybe we shouldn't have changed it. Let's change it to like blue. So that's around $5,200. I mean, if Bitcoin got back down there, I'd probably buy a little bit. I'd probably start like layering buys below that just in case it did go below. But for the most part, yeah, why not? Again, a lot of my Bitcoin was... What in the heck? I have a lot of stuff going on. We just had an absolute rip in this market. What market is this? About took over my trading view chart. Is it still here? Can you guys still see my trading view chart? Sorry, I'm having a little bit of technical problems right now. Jeez. My whole left monitor is gone. Alright, so this is back. This is good. Sorry, guys. I don't know what's happening right now. Huh. Well, I'll worry about that later, I guess. I have no idea what just happened. Hopefully I'm still live. Alright, so we're still good. I have no idea what just happened. Let me go ahead and go back here. I guess I got sidetracked. No idea what just happened. Alright, I missed a lot of comments. I'm sorry, guys. XRP, look, yes, XRP is at 12, is up 12 cents. Yeah, XRP is something I've been talking about for a long time. Way undervalued. People are calling it a stable coin and everything. We want to see XRP. Yes, do XRP. Wow, you guys really want XRP. How long before the dump off? So let me finish covering Bitcoin and then we'll go into XRP. Holy hell. I heard Bitcoin will soon drop to 7K. It's very possible. And if I can go ahead. So when is going to be sell-off? So if this support line over here ends up breaking, then I'll be I won't say I'll be pretty convinced, but I'd be a whole lot more for a bearish breakdown. But until this formation breaks over here, it's a very simple one. Until this guy breaks, there's really no reason for me to be bearish. Again, it's just very much the same pattern. You're just bouncing in this rising channel, so I have no reason at this point to believe that it can't go up towards resistance being around $9,000. Until this breaks, there's no reason to be bullish. I'm bullish until proven bearish, and proven bearish is breaking down below this rising channel. And if that happens, I think we could very easily test the 50 EMA or something around the $7,000 range. That'd make a lot of sense for me. So a lot of people seem to want Bitcoin, so I'm going to keep trying to go through comments and work with this. XRP's. So here's the deal with XRP. Let's talk about this. This has been just a long, very, very long time in the making. In order to do this, this is just going to have to go to the one-day chart. So with XRP pushing over here, this has been, again, a long time in the making. The support line on XRP has been phenomenal. It's bounced so many times. Let me get over here, paste this guy. I mean, there's just been bounce and bounce and bounce off support. If you guys don't know, on a lot of my live streams, I've been talking about XRP for almost every single live stream, talking about how great of a swing trade I think it is. I've mentioned it on Patreon before. I'm like 90% sure about that one. I should probably go check before I say that, but I'm like 99% sure I've mentioned it on Patreon, and I know I've mentioned it on like at least probably like 10 live streams. Basically, the story behind XRP is just bounce after bounce after bounce after all of these bounces off of support, getting pressured in over here. I didn't see a measure move to the downside being logical at all. Really, the only thing in my opinion is that this was all going to get condensed and then it was going to burst towards the upside. I was talking to someone about this. I said around 30 cents and below the 30 cents range is going to be an absolute mad buy for XRP. And sure enough, what happened is that this giant formation ended up breaking towards the upside. Now, with this breaking towards the upside, we have two daily candles that have taken XRP from 31 cents to 45 cents. So it's up probably about 13 cents in 2 days. I don't see this stopping until, so maybe it starts seeing some pullback. The reason why it's starting to see a little bit here, oddly enough, because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense as to like why it would stop here. Besides the fact that you have two forms of resistance. Previous candle top here, previous candle top here, still being resistance over here. However, this is very weak resistance, which is just, I think the most surprising thing about this is that just how weak of resistance this is, and it's still able to stop Bitcoin. So in my honest opinion, I don't see this holding. I see this breaking and XRP moving up over 50 cents. Before seeing some pullback. So maybe it does see some pullback here and then break back up, but ultimately I do see XRP hitting probably at least 51 cents before a significant pullback. That's just my honest opinion, just because the sheer fact that the resistance here, voice crack. The resistance here is so weak on XRP, so that's just, I guess, the main large reason as to why I don't see it holding. Looking at it on the indicators and oscillators, again, doesn't really make any sense, or doesn't matter too much because they haven't meant anything at all lately. But they don't show a little bit of exhaustion. But besides a little bit of exhaustion, I mean, it's been a great run, so maybe it does pull back for a little bit and then rally back towards the upside. So that's very possible. And I think that if XRP is going to bounce, the popular levels for me are going to probably be around 39 cents. Probably around 38 cents, honestly. So I'd say around 38, low 39s, it could be very possible. All right. And for the short term, do you think it's best to short all the altcoins that pop back up after P? So third eye open, I'm not shorting anything. There's no reason to. So I'm bullish until I'm proven bearish. If something crazy bearish comes along and all of a sudden says, all right, we're going back downwards, the fall is going to be pretty steep. It's not going to be like a $200 pullback. Like if we are actually going to start reversing, then maybe I'll short. But as of right now, there's still like no reason to short. No supports have broken. Yes, we're up extremely high. I think we're extremely overextended, but there's still no real reason for me to short yet. Now, if support starts breaking and stuff like that, and we start showing lower highs consecutively, then all right, I might jump into a short. But like for right now, we're still just on an upwards grind. Stellar is mooning. A lot of things are mooning right now. What about the rumor that Binance is using Tether to buy Bitcoin? It's very possible. So I would say, I mean, I can't confirm this. I don't want to be spreading fake information. But if we were joking about this, I don't know where it was. It was in breaking news. Let me go pull this back. We were literally joking about this. Somewhere in here. So, this is what we were talking about. Basically what this says is CZ has moved 127 million USDT, otherwise known as Tether, from Binance's cold wallet since the Tether news broke. Basically, he moved 127 million Tether that he could pump the market with. Ideally, again, this is all speculation, so I can't prove any of this, but it has been known that when CZ moves around a lot of Tether, especially with something to do with the Binance wallets, that a couple days later, the market seems to pump, or shortly after all this millions of dollars of Tether that are moved, the market seems to pump. So $127 million in Tether, CZ moved, which is an absolute ton of money. And then all this news came out. And basically what we were doing is we were talking about this in here, and we were saying, possible Tether delisting, or like what's this going to do on the price. And I said, I kind of added dubs and said, you know what this means more than anyone. And his response was, good luck to anyone shorting when CZ smells a bloodbath. So, and that was on the 29th of last month. So if we go back and we look, when was that? This is on the wrong chart. What was that? 29th of last month. Jeez. So that was right about here. So when Bitcoin was around 5,100, this is when we were talking about this. So all of a sudden, Bitcoin's kind of moving sideways for the most part around this $5,000 region. The 29th, this news comes out. 29th, the news comes out down here. We just had a giant move down. We're consolidating what looks like it could very well be a bear flag. 127 million Tether gets moved. We talk about how that could easily be used to manipulate the market. All of a sudden, the market just starts ripping and ripping and ripping and ripping and ripping. Now, are the two correlated? I have no idea. I can't prove it. But I just think it's kind of a coincidence that all of a sudden 127 million Tether gets moved, and then Bitcoin just starts ripping to like levels that we haven't seen since the end of 2017. So are the two correlated? Is the whole Tether manipulation Binance thing real? I can't say for certain. I can say that there's an obvious correlation. I mean, just from the date that it was moved from a low to like where we're at today, 127 million is like I think some of the most that he's ever moved. So Maybe it's correlated, maybe it's not. I can't prove it, so I can't spread fake information. But I think that it's kind of just like, I don't know. I just kind of put 2 and 2 together, and I think that it's kind of funny. You can't say that it's not, like, someone just said it's fishy. It is fishy. I mean, really? So this mark represents when the tether thing happened. And everything else is post. So, I mean, I don't know. I put 2 and 2 together. If there are XRP futures sell, it means that there will be big drops. Waiting for the drop. Yes, basically, we're saying that we will drop. Everyone seems to be a little bit bearish right now, and I quite don't blame them because we're extremely overextended. Is XRP about to enter into futures trading on Wall Street? Did I miss something? No, I think it's been suppressed for so long. Stellar went up 50%. Crazy. Holy crap. We might have to take a look at this. I'm in TRX at 11 cents, nearly 10,000 coins. Now it's 3.2 cents. Any chance of getting a 25 cent like it did about a year ago? Maybe $1. I'm not sure. I mean, maybe eventually. Maybe. So, any chance? Probably not in this run. Like, not in this run-up. I think in the future it's very, very possible. I also think, however, TRX was the most overextended of probably any mainstream cryptocurrency. That and Cardano. Not to say that they're bad by any means, but they were just the most overextended out of everything else. So I think it's possible maybe a little while in the future, but probably not anytime soon, in all honesty. But if you're in it for the long term, then hey. Sean said, hey TCA, check out this strat. Good evening. All right, let's see it. What? Oh, so this is on the hourly. Oh wait, that's the wrong chart. This is what Sean was just showing me. Basically, whenever the RSI dipped below the oversold territory, I think this is the RSI, right? Looks like the RSI. Basically, whenever the RSI dipped below the oversold territory and then crossed back upwards, long it. Did it 3 times. Wow. And that's on the hourly chart, FYI. Alrighty. What we have happening over here? XRP hit $3 last year, right? Yeah, it hit about $3.30, I believe. You guys are, how many people do I have in here? Wow, you guys are killing comments. Hey, we'll probably see it reaching. Yeah, so yeah, I'm really behind on comments. Wow, you guys are just flying through them. CZ is fishy. I mean, yeah, he's a great guy though. We aren't overextended. We had been in a bear market for a year. Now it's time to go up massively. I mean, I agree. I just think that, like, put it in this way. I think that, where are we at? I think $3,000 in like a week or two is a lot. Yeah. I just think it's a lot without seeing any pullback. Especially after being suppressed for so long. I kind of understand pushing, but what it needs to make sure that it doesn't do, and this is the whole thing, it's more so I want it to have pullback because I don't want us to do what we did last time. If we do what we did last time, then we go through the exact same bear market situation as we did previously. Because if we go up and we tear up on a parabolic run and we set no support for ourselves, then it goes parabolic just as fast parabolically back down, and then everyone's like, well, what's happening? Bitcoin's a scam. So it needs to set support for itself on the way up. Otherwise, we're just going to do the exact same thing. If all we do is do just parabolic run-ups, all we do is set twig and thatch support. And then we just break it in one try on the way down. Every time BTC goes into a bull market, it makes much higher highs. Yeah, I agree with that. I could not agree more. And Bitcoin's in a bull market right now. All I'm saying is that basically that eventually, and again, right now, what I've said a lot of times tonight is that I'm bullish on Bitcoin. There's no reason to be bearish in this area at all. Until some kind of support breaks, it's just going to keep bouncing around. right? It's in a very, very beautiful rising channel, hit from resistance to support to resistance to support to resistance to support, and probably now back to resistance. Next resistance area is at $9,000, so there's no reason to believe that it won't go back up there because of the fact that we're holding support. Now, if support breaks, it's a different story. We'd probably come back down and then bounce, and there's no reason to believe that we wouldn't bounce because, again, we're in a bull market. So if we are in a bull market, the whole ideology is that if Bitcoin has a significant dip, you buy it. Now, I'm not saying that as financial advice, but I am saying that as like a personal strategy that I've learned is that in bull markets, the whole buy the dip mentality works because the fact that it will keep reaching higher highs. Now, if this is not a bull market, maybe this is just one giant fake out. Obviously, that strategy doesn't work. It's a strategy that does not work in a bear market. And there's a kind of like a catchy saying that goes buy the dip, sell the rip. So if it's in a bull market, you buy the dip, and if it's in a bear market, you just sell the rip, and you kind of just keep on working and focusing on those areas because that's what's most effective because again, a bear market continually wants to push down and a bull market always wants to push up. EOS, please. So let's go ahead and fake news. I don't know what's fake news. We don't like fake news here. We speak the facts, or I speak the facts rather. So let's take a look at EOS, and we'll take a look. I know people were saying a lot of things that they want to be able to look at, and there was just too many comments. So if you want me to look at something, say it, and I'd love to take a look at it. EOS to the US dollar is currently at $6.50, and pushing up over here very, very well. Still holding this exact support line. No reason to believe that it won't. And I don't know how this got moved down, but basically this support line should be moved up some. But basically you can just see that it was bouncing very, very well off of this area. Bouncing, again, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So with EOS, again, continually bouncing off of this area, this is where my primary support is. Now, if I had to draw secondary support for what it's currently doing right now in this little parabolic run that it's having, my sights would probably have to draw something more along the lines of this. And even then, that's hard because it's going very parabolic. So generally my rule of thumb is that if you're having a hard time drawing a support line, it's probably overextended. And when I say overextended, it's not to say that it's going to crash and burn. What I mean by that is it's probably going to pull back, hit a higher low, and then continue to go up, and then continue to go up. Something like along the lines of that. So when I say it's overextended, I'm not just like, oh, well, this thing's dead. It's just going to fall through the floor over here. That's not what I mean. When I say it's overextended, I mean it's probably due for a pullback, probably to the previous high of around $6 flat. Just like, yeah. Well, no, $6.09. So probably somewhere around that area and then maybe bounce. Or maybe to the 50 EMA and then bounce. So maybe not though. I mean, honestly, maybe it just keeps pushing. Obviously, so just because something's overextended doesn't mean that it has to come back down. CCI. What is CCI? What is CCI, Sean? Tezos. XTZ. XTZ. We should look at this to the BTC pairing. That's not the one I wanted. There we go. Tezos. So my next resistance range are going to probably be around this area. It's going to start hitting resistance here pretty soon. Not to say that it has to get rejected, but so probably somewhere, anywhere really above this area. I think it's almost there. You can see that it's almost hitting it, again, with this top being so close and then all of this being consolidation resistance. I would say anywhere between like the 22,300 zone all the way up to like the 23,400 zone. It's all going to be probably a little bit of resistance in that area. I don't think it has reached it yet. Yes, this does look like it's slowing down a little bit on this candle region, but the trend is still your friend. your MACD is showing a little bit of exhaustion, saying that it might want to start curling back down and go for a bounce here. Same thing with your RSI. Again, none of that's proven yet, but your MACD certainly does look like it is starting to round over here. I think that is kind of clear to see that your MACD looks like it's going to start rounding. Again, doesn't mean it has to, but you know, it is starting to hit resistance right now on Tezos. So yeah, take that as what you will. I can't give you like really financial advice, but if I were in Tezos and I was trying to trade it, which I don't try to trade altcoins really, I pretty much just accumulate and hold. But maybe, I mean, maybe if I was trading this, I'd maybe look to like sell a little bit in here and then look to reaccumulate lower. But like even then, it's just risky because this is just, you know, again, we're in a bull market right now, and you know, what's the reason that it can't go higher? I mean, obviously, we just talked about the reasons, being that it was at resistance and these things were looking like a little bit exhausted, but my question got missed out. Hey, Chris, Mr. RS Chris, what's your question? I'd love to be able to answer it. I'm sorry. There was a lot of comments in here, and I guess I didn't see it. I think I found it. Do you think that the acceptance of Bitcoin at major retailers is now a lucky coincidence with the Golden Cross, or would you say that there is an unrelated to the big rise? Do I think that they are unrelated to the big rise? No, I think that it's definitely correlated, and it's something that I've talked about for a long time. Is that it's not just a coincidence that this stuff happens. It's the exact same thing back in 2015. It was the exact same thing I think back in 2011 when it happened last time. Like this whole market cycle has happened 2 or 3, 4 times before, and we've gone over that in historical analysis. I've been around for all of them, and it's nothing new. It's the exact same market cycle for Bitcoin, and every time it happens, like news like this comes out, it's like, oh, Golden Cross, and then all of a sudden all this news, like all this stuff is correlated. You have to remember, the people running in behind the scenes and all this, they're not idiots. Like, they know what's going on. They have people who tell them, like, this is the time to implement. And there's, like, something going... Now, I'm not saying, like, Illuminati behind the scenes. But what I'm saying is that the people running, like, corporations and this and that, like, they're not idiots. Like, they know what's going on. They have people whose sole job is to, like, work with stuff like this and to be like, hey, like, now's the time. Now's the time to get in on this. Now's the time to jump on the trend. This stuff is happening. Bitcoin just had a Golden Cross for the 3rd time in its history. Probably a good time to implement anything crypto plan that we have, because this was, you know, a very, very bullish thing. So it's not like to say that they're like, oh, shoot, the Golden Cross is now. It's like, you know, there's probably something going on behind the scenes. So to answer your question, Chris, I think the acceptance isn't, I don't think it's a lucky coincidence. I think some of them might be, but I don't think as a whole, like, this whole thing's just a lucky coincidence. I think it's like a long time in the making. XRP and VET. Alright, I think we already did XRP, but I would love to do some VET. VET to BTC. When's the last? I haven't done this one forever. It's been so long. Yeah. That was a shame. It came back down, buy zone, and then I think last time we talked about it was buy zone here, and it never triggered. So with this coming back up, it's actually a good idea. It's actually a good thing that I have this chart up, because of the fact that now what we can do, all we have to do really is extend this guy over and see that now former support is now resistance. You see buy, you know, bounce off these areas. So now you could very well see resistance from these areas. However, if it can break and hold above this area, right, around 100, if it can break and hold over like 104 sats, I think it'd be very, very bullish. However, you know, this is going to be strong resistance. This was your bottom for August of 18 all the way to January of 19. So for all of August, you know, through January, that you had all this being main support, now turn resistance. So definitely something to be careful about. It's definitely, you can't say it's not at resistance right now. It bounced off this level like 3 separate times. Very, very well. So just because it's resistance, it doesn't mean it has to hold. But, you know, it certainly, it certainly is a strong form of resistance. But nothing too bearish so far. Besides that. Ethereum. I love doing some Ethereum. People never want the mainstream altcoins on technical analysis, even though they're like the most applicable of anything. Holy frick. What's the price of Bitcoin right now? Because this is ripping. Bitcoin's kind of moving too. Jeez. Ethereum is really moving. That's really parabolic. Wow. So Ethereum's going to start hitting resistance here in a second. The reason for that being is that it has this guy that it has to worry about. So this is going to end up being a consolidation resistance zone for Bitcoin. That's going to have probably at least a little trouble with. So I think it certainly can push up higher than it currently is at. But I do think that it's actually going to start hitting some sort of resistance here for the meantime. But I mean, again, this is one of those things where, yes, it's going to start hitting resistance, but you can't complain about. I mean, look at the chart. It's just like... Thank you, much respect. Yeah, no problem. Can you have a gander at ontology to the USDT? Absolutely. My good man, yeah, for sure, Floyd. Community channel index, that was the 14 CCI rolling up with the 100 CCI weighted to the upside. Oh, okay. I'm sorry, yeah, I remember you told me that now. That's actually really nice, Sean. Thank you. Vet is useless, no? I don't know. I don't own Vet. Someone just asked me to do some TA on it. I don't think it's horrible, but I just don't own it. Can you look at Knowles? Yes. It will never go back to 10 cents or higher. Great stream, meow. Hey, thank you so much, man. It's going to blow right through. So, who said that? It's going to blow right through. Legendary. So, maybe it does just blow through this resistance right here for the time being. You know, it's at resistance, but you can't complain if this does come down and people are going to get really angry that I say it's going to pull back. But, like, you can't get angry if it pulls back at all here. It's up in, like, in a week's time, this thing's up $62. How much is it? I don't even know how much it's up on the day. 5.5%? Like, that's incredible. That's, like, what most people make in a year on, like, people who just, like, hold their stocks. Like, their average expected revenue growth is, like, 7% or something like that. You almost made that in a day on Ethereum. Or like in a week, sorry. Or no, yeah, in a day. In a week, I don't even know what it is. Let's do actually, no, we'll skip that. It'll take too much time. So ideally, where do I see this pulling back to? I mean, it's so parabolic. Like there's no there's like no support. Like, I don't even know where to start. Maybe like $200? I think that's pretty fair. You do have these guys over here, which are going to act as some support, but I mean, the brunt of most close support isn't going to be down until like the $200, sub $200 range. So it's going to be ugly whenever it does. Maybe it's not done yet. Maybe it just keeps blowing through support. I mean, look at this. And so that's what I mean. Like, when it, I mean, look at, I don't know what that candle's from. But basically, on every great run-up, there's pullback. And even on this parabolic run-up, there was significant pullback, right? So no matter what kind of run-up we're looking at it, there's always just these massive pullbacks. I mean, look at this, right? Just massive run-up, pullback, and then massive run-up again, and then massive pullback back down. It's not to say that the pullbacks are bad. They're just to be expected. When something goes this parabolic and this over, extended, it pulls back. It's just common sense. But it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. So it pulls back so it can go higher. So ideally, I think this would pull back to the $200 range and then probably see a higher high. It's just what makes sense to me. So do I think it's done yet? No. I mean, there's no reason to say that it is done yet. Yes, we're at resistance, but, we just kind of got into the range of resistance. It's not to say that, like, oh, shoot, we're at resistance now, we're just going to tank. I mean, there's plenty of more. I mean, look where it's at. It's right over here in this area. This could very easily move up like another $10, at least. Very easily. So there's no reason that it would stop now and that it would have stopped when this whole thing started. So am I shorting this right now? Absolutely not. There's no reason to be. Just ride it. Enjoy it. Once it shows a sign that it actually wants to pull back or wants to do something, then I might actually do something. But like the people who are selling every rip, like every single rip candle over here, are just getting wrecked. And so you kind of just have to learn to enjoy it. So, I mean, there's no reason to like sell the rip yet. I mean, there's no like confirmed just like breakdown. Like maybe you do catch the top, but like who knows? What do you think about the price towards the next halving? I mean, I think it's going to continue. The halving is good. And I think that it's another reason as to why Bitcoin's going up. About a year before every halving, the price in Bitcoin goes up significantly. And this year was no different. So, with Bitcoin continuing the same trend that it's always done, and the same market cycle, the same fundamental, or more so the same historics, it's going to continue to go upwards. The happening is kind of a good thing for Bitcoin. Don't forget about Knowles. All right, let's take a look at Knowles, and then we're going to go back to Bitcoin and wrap it up on Bitcoin. What was it? Knowles to the USDT? It was. Knowles right now getting into a little bit of resistance territory as well. Was able to clear out all this stuff over here, doing absolutely phenomenal. Knowles is doing good. What is happening over there? So with my mouse keeps getting stuck on my other monitor. So with this happening over here, what I'm looking at is pretty much this range. So Bitcoin is just now kind of getting into this guy over here. So all this is going to end up being resistance. It's going to start entering into this zone pretty soon. It's going to start hitting resistance up here fairly soon. Not to say that like the real bulk of it will probably start more so around probably around like 85 cents is probably where like the real resistance will begin. So like this could very well continue to move up towards 85 cents before seeing its real resistance. Right now, it's not looking bearish. Your RSI does look like it's maybe wanting to round a little bit, but it's still pointing upwards. Nothing horrible to see there. Another cool thing that you know what I should have been doing all night? I should have been doing Fib retracements. This is upside down. So that we can see how these retracings are. So right now, it looks like it was just breaking from its high to the previous swing low. It just now broke the 50% retracement line. Or no, wait, is that right? Make sure I'm thinking this right. I always throw these things freaking upside down, and I don't realize it until I'm done. And then I have to go all the way back through it. So from the previous high, I have this upside down again. So from the previous swing high to the swing low, we've retraced all the way up to. I mean, it doesn't matter because the 50% retracement mark's the same either way, whether it's upside down or not. But for clarity's purposes, this is the right way. And so with this working out this way, basically what it's saying is that from the bottom, we're able to retrace past the 236, past the 382, up to the 50% retracement mark and actually break through it. So ideally now we would be looking towards the golden Fib retracement, which would be the 618. The golden Fib is the 618, the silver Fib is the 382. And so with this happening over here, ideally I would expect this to push back up into this range. Now, it just so happens to be that the golden Fib being the 618 is exactly in the range that I was talking about from technical resistance. That being exactly on the dot of 85 cents. So it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool when you see these things go hand in hand. So, before I even put up the Fib, I was talking about 85 being, the real resistance. And it's kind of cool how this just so happens to be that the real resistance begins at the 618, which just so happens to be at the 85-cent mark for Knowles. So that's what I would keep my eye on, around the 85-cent mark. You have obviously clear resistance there. You have the 618. You have technical resistance and a couple other stuff like that. So gotta love Fib retracements. They're probably one of the most useful things. All right. BTC is ripping. Let's go check her out. I do enjoy a good rip from Bitcoin. Oh, higher high. There we go. Again, so if you guys don't know, so we were talking about this at the beginning of the live stream. So when the live stream started, Bitcoin was at $8,160. Again, bullish until bearish. There's no reason to be bearish here. It just bounced off of support. Why can't it go back up towards resistance? As we're on live stream, forms a higher high, which is absolutely great. We're pushing up towards that 8,400 resistance level. If we get rejected here, we're probably setting up an ascending triangle. The reason that this is resistance is because of what we're over here looking at to the left. We're pretty much clearing it out though. If Bitcoin breaks this, it's probably going to go parabolic again. Next target's up towards 9,000. Could it be that more peeps are aware of the decreasing new supply? I think so. I mean, yeah, it's very possible. My Bitcoin balance is on the rise again, headed for 8.4K. If this continues, what resistance do you expect it to hit? Chris, my next... so the reason... I have pretty much just two resistances from here. The first one's very simple. I think it'll stay in this... there's no reason to think that it won't stay in this rising channel. Rising channel, if I just go up here and I kind of just look ideally to what's next, it's around $9,000. I mean, if we just go straight up from here, and this 1 4-hour candle, it pretty much puts us at $9,000. So that's going to be my first target. Why? Because it's the resistance of this rising channel that we've touched so many times, right? Touch over here, touches over here, touches over here. Ideally, it would go back over here again. Second resistance is going to be on the chart over here, and that's going to be $10,000. The reason for that is because that's this previous high over here, which is also going to be resistance. And so far, all the previous highs in Bitcoin have been some form of resistance. We've just been able to break them. So $9,000, then $10,000 are my next two targets, which is weird because I never have flat targets. I never have targets that are like 7,000, 8,000, 9,000. My targets are always so obscure, like $7,227 or something like that. It's always such an obscure target. But for this time, it's just the flat numbers of 9,000 and 10,000. Those areas are just going to end up being resistance areas. And so I think that if this 8.4K region can break and hold, Bitcoin's probably just going to go parabolic again. Have I seen Digibyte? Amazing run. No, I haven't. Let's take a look. What is it? Digibyte? DGB? Meh. Oh, jeez. Yeah, it's a pretty good run. What was the Jeez. What was the run-up on this guy? Jeez, nearly 60%. Huh. I don't know what just happened. Well, we're looking at NASDAQ all of a sudden. It's just weird because I have the chart up over there. So Ambrius is saying, tell us your bearish views. How low can Bitcoin fall? I'm actually really glad that you asked that. I don't know how to say your name. I'm going to call you Aurelius. Aurelius, I'm really glad that you asked it because not many people go to, well, tell us the opposing view, because that's something I do a lot and some people like it, some people don't, but I'm actually really glad that you asked that. So from the opposing side over here, that if Bitcoin, or rather when Bitcoin falls, wherever that may be from, it's going to be, one, it's going to be fast, and two, it's going to be hard. And people are going to be really upset about it because people are going to continue to buy the top. So when it does fall fast, and when it does fall hard, it doesn't have any support set for itself. First region, probably going to be somewhere around 7,500, 7,600, somewhere around here. This is going to be support over here. The reason why is because of what we were just zoomed in on, this little area. And so the reason that this is an area of support is because you have previous high turned into support. So previous resistance now turned into support. You see that very, very, very clearly over here. Resistance over here on 2 candles, almost 3 candles, then support, and then support again. So support or resistance turns support. It's going to end up still being support now. It's going to be strong support. And in addition to that guy, you also have that same level being a previous top of a swing high over the course of 2018. So that is my first level. Second level is where it starts getting hard, because yes, we do have our 50 EMA on the 4 hour. Yes, we do have our 50 EMA on the 1 day, but that's not what's way down. The real answer is that there's really no support until Bitcoin gets back. If it breaks this level, there's really not a lot of support until Bitcoin gets back to like the $6,000 range. And that's the scary truth of it all. Is that if you're looking at this from a technical standpoint, there's not really a lot of resistance. Yes, we do have our $8,000 range that we're at right now, our $8,300 range. But like, let's just say we fall out now, so we just negate that. Then we have this $7,400 range. Below that, we're going to the upper mid 6,000s. And that's like the scary truth of it. And it is scary. I mean, obviously there's a lot of opportunity, but so whenever this does end up wanting to reverse, I would be very down to short it, and then I would buy the dip. So I'd probably short it down to, this initial level, see if it holds. If it doesn't, probably just hold my short. Like what reason is there going to be to sell? Now there's no reason to enter a short yet because we're still holding support. We just formed another higher high. No reason for me to short this yet. But eventually when this does end up starting to break down, and I think it'll be very clear when it does break down. Initially, this looked like it was going to end up being the top, ended up seeing this parallel channel, and then saying, all right, we'll throw that out the window because now it's just in a parallel channel. It can very easily just go higher from here. So the bearish views on this is that maybe it hits 9 or 10K, maybe it just falls out here. But the bearish view is, when this falls out of this channel, it's probably going to be a pretty bad thing towards the downside. And I think another thing is that like when this whole like news thing, FOMO runs over, like, it's going to be a reckoning. My first time here, what altcoins am I into? Well, first of all, welcome to Having Show. It's great to have you in here. My name is Brendan, otherwise known as the Crypto Analyst. So it's it's great to have you in here. And also, altcoins that I'm into. Let's talk about it. I have a list. I get that question a lot, so I just went ahead and wrote up a list. Starting off, this is in no particular order, really. But I do think Bitcoin and XRP and Pundi are some of my favorites. The rest of them are really no in particular order after that. EOS, Cardano, TRX, Amise Go, BAT, Stellar Lumens, and Binance Coin are all really good cryptos in my opinion. Honorable mentions I have are like lower market cap coins that are like riskier but obviously more rewarding. Encash, Karma, Ravencoin, and Neblio. They're all pretty cool ones. But Raven or Karma was a very, very obscure one. I had their team reach out to me, and so it's the only reason why I ever found it. So I just kind of kept it on this list. But I'm not sponsored by them or any of these guys. But yeah, those are the cryptos that I'm into. So I'm not opposed to like all the other ones, but those are just the ones that kind of catch my eye. You can only own so many. Having shows is HODL. 7,500 and 6K is depression mode. Okay, got it. Yeah, I mean, if you'll know. I mean, I think people will know. Like, just that it's like the same thing where people are like, well, how do I know? How do I know if Bitcoin's bullish? And how do I know if it's a bull market? It's like something like this happens, or like something like this happens, and you're like, I mean, like, need you say more? Consistent lower lows, just parabolic run, or sorry, consistent higher lows, parabolic run, consistent higher lows, parabolic run. Like, it's just one of those things, like, well, where it happens. So if it goes parabolic back down, lower highs, parabolic down, it's like, it's pretty self-explanatory. Not to be like in a rude way, but like, if it just starts going parabolic down, then setting lower highs, and then parabolic, like, it's probably in for a little bit of a reckoning. Litecoin and Ethereum Classic were missing. No good. I used to own. No, I mean, okay. So here's the thing. I hate. What's the word? I hate forks. And so I don't own Ethereum Classic. I don't own Bitcoin Cash. I don't own SV. I don't own Bitcoin Dark. I don't own any of those. I hate forks. I hate the ideology behind them. I don't like the people who run them for the most part. And so I don't hold forks at all. It's nothing specifically against Ethereum Classic. I just don't like forks. I think they're horrible. And Litecoin, I think. I mean, I would own some Litecoin. I'm not opposed to owning Litecoin, but usually the most common question that I get is if you could only get your top 10 cryptocurrencies, if you could only own 10, what would it be? So for the longest time, Litecoin was on that list. I think I kicked it out for like, I don't know what I kicked it out for. It was like BNB or like Tron or something. And the only reason was, I think Litecoin's great and I love it, but I would, if I only had to own 10 coins, it wouldn't be one of the 10. Why? Because like, quite frankly, they're just kind of like old. Like they just are. The only reason that they're still around is because they're kind of just like, not the only reason, but like they're kind of just like the test net for Bitcoin, and they're just like a faster version of Bitcoin. When so many other cryptocurrencies are so much more than that now, and they just kind of are like slowly falling out of favor. Not to say that they will just go extinct is a better word. Not to say that they'll never just. I can't speak. Not to say that they will just go extinct, but rather that they're just kind of getting surpassed by all these other cryptocurrencies. So why would I spend and invest a large portion of my money into something that's lagging behind when I could do something that's more like upcoming and new? I just think things have more potential than Litecoin. I think Litecoin has a lot of potential, but I just think that some things have more potential. And so if I could only have 10 cryptocurrencies, those are the 10 that I would have. Thought so too, that Ethereum is a fork. Wait, what? Did I read that wrong? Agree. Isn't Ethereum Classic the original and Ethereum is the fork? Thought so too, Ethereum is the fork. So, sort of. This is where the whole idea of forks get complicated. So with Bitcoin SV, so just because the software, this is where it gets hard. So just because the software gets improved, is that always a bad or a different thing? Because I think that the whole thing with cryptocurrency is that the software should be like ever improving, ever developing sort of thing. Most people agree with that. The software should be ever increasing. And what's his name? The leader of Bitcoin SV has pretty much always said, like, this is Bitcoin core. This is Bitcoin original. I need to exit out of this guy over here. And basically he says, like, we own the original Bitcoin. The original Bitcoin core is that, we are Bitcoin. He even sometimes refers to himself as Satoshi Nakamoto. The problem with that being, I'm trying to decide how I want to say this. I'm going to try to say this without, like, really... Some people get really frustrated with how I word this. I lost my train of thought. Get my funds on Coinbase. What other exchanges do you recommend for us rookies? All right, I'll answer that in 1 second. Let me collect myself for this thought. Basically, just because the cryptocurrency improves their technology, and some people say, no, we don't want the technology to improve because that's straying from the original purpose, and then they say, well, we're going to fork off because you're improving the technology and you're making it better, and we disagree with that, and so we're going to be a fork, and then we're the actual core thing, even though the actual core thing improved its technology. And so just because they improve their technology, does that make them less of a version of themselves? And I think the answer to that is no, they're just a better version of themselves. And just because some people want it to stay behind to be the original version is a worse version. Not to say, and for the sole reason that the updated version is faster. So there's in some cases where the thing does want to upgrade and people fork off because they want to stay with the old one. But then there's other situations where people want to fork off because they want to actually change something significant about it. And there's been like forks for that as well. Like I think Monero had like a very hard fork because of that situation. I want to say it was Monero. I think so. But basically, there's a million reasons why a fork can happen. Sometimes it's for the right reason. Sometimes it's for the wrong reason. Anyway, there's a lot of... forks are very complicated. And for the most part, the one fork I really, really don't like is Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Cash Satoshi's Vision. And I've gone into I'll probably have to save that for next live stream because my voice is literally wearing out right now. But to answer your question, Chris, I keep my funds on Coinbase. I keep my... what other exchanges do you recommend? Which I don't mind that I'm admitting. Yeah, no. So, I mean, don't... Yeah. No question's a stupid question, man. So, I keep my funds on 4 different exchanges and a Nano Ledger S. So, my things are spread everywhere. So, I have funds on a Nano Ledger S. I have funds on Coinbase, Coinbase Pro, Binance, and another exchange, and BitMEX. So I'm spread all over the place. My funds are absolutely scattered for diversification. Can you explain what happens when you trade into an alt from BTC and then back into BTC? Example, you have X amount of BTC. You thought you were at 3,500 and you make a trade from BTC to XRP. So basically, Jimbo, the answer to that question is that's where the whole value, so that's the whole reason why the Satoshi or the SAT value, that's why if we go to the Bitcoin value, say we do like XRP to BTC, this pairing is called the Satoshi pairing or the BTC pairing. This value over here is called sats or Satoshis, so 5,556 sats. The way that this gets its value is that basically, if XRP's dollar amount goes up, so say XRP is at $1 and Bitcoin is at $10,000. If XRP goes up by 5% and Bitcoin goes up by 1%, the Satoshi value will rise. Why? Because XRP is more value even though Bitcoin went up. The Satoshi value, saying that if you were to have your BTC from, say you traded one BTC from $10,000 into XRP at $1. Instead of your Bitcoin only going up 1% and XRP went up 5% that day, then you would have gone up 5% in XRP, so your Satoshi value is now higher. So say you probably would have went from like, I don't know, let's just like make up numbers, like 10,000 sats. You were from 10,000 sats and it went up to like 10,200 sats. Where if you were to just kept your money in Bitcoin, you would only be up 1%. But because you traded your money from Bitcoin to XRP, it went up 5%. So what you do is that you trade now. So now you say you want to go back into Bitcoin. So now you go back into Bitcoin from that now 5% gain on XRP back into Bitcoin. So you now have like 105%. And so what they do is, instead of saying this is they have to essentially create a pairing, because you have to create a pairing if you're trading it back into Bitcoin. So what you have to do is you have to create a pairing, and you have to call it something. You have to create a measurement system for it. So yes, it did go up in US dollar amount, but because you're trading it back into Bitcoin, you have to have a pairing for that, whatever, for the asset. And so that's where the ideas of sats come in. So basically, the way that sats work is that it's kind of a complicated system. If Bitcoin holds value, and there's a million ways that this can work out. So stay with me here. This is going to be really complicated. I need something to drink. Basically, if Bitcoin holds the exact value at $10,000 and XRP goes up, the sat value goes up. If Bitcoin holds its value of $10,000 and XRP goes down, it loses sat value. If Bitcoin goes up in value and XRP holds value, the sat value will go down. If Bitcoin goes up in value and XRP doesn't go up as much as Bitcoin, the sat value will also go down. So a lot of the times you'll see that on these Bitcoin pairings, like over here, the reason why this breakdown happened in the Bitcoin value isn't because XRP was tanking. And I'll show you guys this. XRP was going up in price, but the Satoshi value was dropping. The reason that the Satoshi value was dropping was because the price of Bitcoin was going up so substantially that the XRP price was not going up as much as the price of Bitcoin. So what this does is it tanks the Satoshi value, even though the US dollar evaluation is going up. So if we go over here, March 31st, you get XRP to the USD, and March 31st. So March 31st, you see Bitcoin going up substantially in US dollar pairing. However, it was not as much. It didn't go up as much as Bitcoin did. So even though, yes, the Satoshi value tanked, you still made a lot of money. However, what it's saying is that you would have made more money just holding Bitcoin. So if you were to trade back to Bitcoin from this region, you would get less Bitcoin than you intended from the beginning. So I know that's really complicated. Basically, yeah, your whole thing with Satoshi value is you're just trying to accumulate more and more Bitcoin. So basically, you're getting more Bitcoin. Yeah, basically. I'm a fan of Coinbase is the safest in my opinion. I agree. Coinbase is the safest. And I think Binance is fairly safe. I say that and they just got hacked, but I think they're both fairly safe, because Binance will, they at least seek to like reimburse you if you do get hacked somehow. But yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the live stream, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We were able to cover a lot, covered some in-depth stuff. I need to go rest my voice. I'm just getting over bronchitis, and so I am very, very beat. And I'm going to go rest a little bit. So hopefully you guys did enjoy. Hopefully you guys got some value out of this, some education out of this. And yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and hopefully I will see you guys in the next video.